The soldier is not a man of violence. He carries his arms and risks his life for mistakes not of his making. He has the merit of being unflinchingly true to his word to the end, while knowing that he will be forgotten. However, those who had to leave them here and turn away came back to them without forgetting them, and neither have we forgotten the history of the Korean War with them. June 25, 1950, North Korean forces invade South Korea. Just 3 days after the war breaks out, Seoul, the capital city, falls to the enemy. In order to halt this act of North Korean aggression, the United Nations Security Council passes a resolution calling for the participation of UN forces in the conflict. Starting with the Incheon landing operation, UN forces recaptured Seoul on September 28 and advanced all the way to the Yalu and Tumen rivers. However, they were forced to retreat due to the intervention of Chinese forces, and a truce agreement was signed on July 27, 1953. UN forces that participated in the Korean War amounted to 1.95 million personnel from 22 countries, among whom 41,000 made the ultimate sacrifice. Lasting for 3 years and 1 month, the Korean War is recorded as one of the cruelest and most tragic chapters in the history of the 20th century. During the war, the UN command buried the fallen in 6 temporary cemeteries, including Incheon and Kaesong. In April 1951, a cemetery was dedicated in Busan. After the war, the South Korean government proposed to the UN to formally establish this Busan cemetery as a UN memorial cemetery to honor the sacrifices of the young soldiers who lost their lives in a foreign land they came to defend. In 1955, their proposal was passed by the UN General Assembly, and in November 1959, the South Korean government and the UN signed an agreement to establish and maintain the UN Memorial Cemetery. The cemetery is now overseen by the Commission of the United Nations Memorial Cemetery, Korea, composed of the 11 countries with soldiers buried in the cemetery. The UN Memorial Cemetery in Korea, covering approximately 13.4 hectares, encompasses Memorial Service Hall, Memorabilia Hall, Symbolic Area, Main Grave Area, and Green Area. The Memorial Service Hall, where visitors pay their respects, also screens an introductory video to help understand the Korean War and the United Nations Memorial Cemetery. The Memorabilia Hall displays the first UN flag flown over the UN command headquarters during the Korean War and exhibits photographs of the UN troops' actions and other commemorative items testifying to the tragic history of the Korean War. In the symbolic area, many flags fly in the wind, representing each of the 22 nations that participated in the war, as well as the ROK and the UN. This area also contains memorials honoring the fallen from some of the nations that fought, including Turkey, Greece, New Zealand, Norway, Thailand, and the Philippines. Most of the remains are buried in the main grave area and the plots of 7 countries, including Australia, Canada, France, the Netherlands, Turkey, the United Kingdom, and the United States are located here. Here, hundreds of heroes whose lives were cut short rest for eternity alongside their comrades. In the green area beneath the main grave area, one can find the graves of veterans who survived the war and returned to their home country. They are buried next to their comrades in accordance with their heartfelt wishes. The Wall of Remembrance is also here, etched with the names of the UN forces who lost their lives in the Korean War, together with the UN Forces Monument and a second memorabilia hall, which displays mementos and photos, including portraits donated by bereaved families of their lost loved ones interred at the cemetery. One can see the Daunt Waterway, situated between the cemetery and green area, and the Unknown Soldier's Pathway with 11 cascades of water, which is located in the green area. The water appears to be flowing into eternity, transcending the boundary between life and death. Time has changed many things. From the ruins of war, where there seemed to be no hope or future, South Korea has grown into a global economic powerhouse. Many call it a miracle. Others thought it was impossible. But we know that this astonishing transformation was made possible by the courageous service and noble sacrifice of young people from around the world who fought to preserve the peace and sovereignty of a young Republic of Korea at the time of its greatest peril. Even though these young souls who sacrificed themselves in the defense of the ROK were laid to rest several decades ago, the constant stream of visitors paying their respect continues. On special observance days each year, such as the memorial days of various countries, the anniversary of the war's start, June 25, and turn toward Busan Day, November 11, various events and pan-civic tributary ceremonies take place here. And every single day, ceremonies are held to raise the UN flag at 10 a.m. and lower it at 4 p.m. On the anniversaries of the deaths of those buried here, chrysanthemums are offered along with the flag as an expression of gratitude for their sacrifice. On the website, an online tribute space allows anyone in the world to pay tribute with a virtual flower. In the case of Turkey, which dispatched 20,000 troops to fight in the Korean War, it isn't only aging veterans who make a point to visit the United Nations Memorial Cemetery, but all Turkish people who travel to Busan. Among the interred are the Hersey brothers from Canada, who were born as brothers, fought as brothers in arms, and now rest together as brothers in eternity.
They grew up in a small little town. My Uncle Joe was the oldest of 7 children, and then there was a sister, and then my dad. So my dad and Joe were like best friends. They did everything together, played, worked. They were always together. My dad signed up and went to Winnipeg and joined the war, and he didn't talk to his brother about that first, he just did it. And a few months later, there was his brother. He came to look after my dad.
But the brothers could not meet in the turmoil of battle. One day, younger brother Archibald received the devastating news. His brother had been killed in combat. Living on without his brother, Archibald was haunted by lifelong grief and guilt. He left a will saying, "I want to lie next to my brother in Korea." So in April 2012, in pouring rain, Archibald was laid to rest with Joseph, finally reunited as brothers in eternity. Is shared blood the only criteria for us to refer to each other as brothers? Mr. James Grundy from the United Kingdom, who as a 19-year-old soldier recovered and buried the remains of his brothers in arms, wished to be buried here as well.
So when I was back in the UK, he kept saying to me, "Yes, you buried those soldiers there, but who else is going to see those soldiers? Who is going to visit the grave?" And I promised those soldiers before I left Korea that I would come back to them. And I fulfilled my promise to them. And every time I come, even today, the feeling is the same as when I first came to Korea in 1988. The feeling is still there, here.
Grundy who returned to the cemetery every year for the next 35 years at his own expense, visited the graves of his fellow soldiers, and gave a salute that belied his 90 years of age. In November 2022, just as he had always wished, Grundy was laid to rest at the UN Memorial Cemetery. His annual visits were a testament to his undying comradeship with his fellow soldiers and his promise to never forget them. The peace and freedom that we take for granted were safeguarded because those who rest here were willing to risk their lives to create a tomorrow that they desperately wanted. And so we continue to honor their memory so that the blood they shed and the tears shed by their loved ones are never forgotten.
I want people to remember the sacrifice of the soldiers.
Well, in my family, it's not forgotten. We talk about it all the time. We read everything we can. We visit here as much as we can as well. And the world should remember.